Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another edition of the Spurs Chat podcast. In this edition, of course, we'll be talking about another defeat for Tottenham Hotspur. Spurs 1, West Ham 2. That is now 4 defeats in our last 5 games, picking up just 1 point out of a possible 15. We remain 5th in the Premier League table. Of course, Spurs 1, West Ham 2. Romero put Spurs 1-0 up after 11 minutes and West Ham with 2 second-half goals. Bowen in the 52nd minute and Ward-Prowse getting the winner in the 74th minute. As usual, I've got 3 very special guests to talk about today's game. We've got impressionist Darren Altman back with us. Darren, how are you?
Bit flat, Chris. Bit flat after that. It was like I went to the Aston Villa game and we were like Brazil for half an hour. You know, we should have been 4 goals up, you know, playing unbelievable football. And today it was the same, but for 45 minutes, we completely, utterly dominated them. We battered them for 45 minutes and we could only get the 1 goal. And it just, you know, we became unstuck and we all know what happened, but it's so frustrating. And I'm reading the comments in the chat and already, you know, the arguments or the discussion has started. You know, some people are saying, trust the process, you know, wait till January. You know, it's long term. He's only been there for a few months. And other people are saying he's a one-trick pony, you know, get rid. He needs to adapt. So he's already dividing fans. That, you know, the stats, I guess, speak for themselves. But it's just so frustrating. Why we can't put these games to bed and sort of kick on after we dominate teams and get the second goal and the third goal and wrap it up. It's just flat as a pancake now after that. Flat as a pancake.
Also back with us is channel regular Becky Day. Becky, how are you?
Yeah, hello, Chris. Very much like Darren, a bit flat. I think at half time I thought, yeah, we're going to kick on from here. And yeah, just a bit unsure of what to kind of make of it. It was a game of 2 halves, much like Villa. I remember seeing you on the high road, Chris, after the Villa game, and you said the same thing. It's a game of 2 halves. We've got to take our chances. And again, we haven't taken our chances. And yeah, it feels like we're a bit found out.
And also back with us is best-selling author Kimberly Chambers. Kimberly, great to have you back here. How are you?
Yeah, I'm all right, mate. Apart from the game, I just, I mean, I do trust the process. Like, obviously, I'm disappointed tonight, but I honestly feel in Big Ange we have got the manager that we've been crying out for a long while. I truly believe, like I'm silly saying it after the day, but I think he's got to be back now. He's got to be back in January. I mean, you know, he didn't look like scoring tonight. We've let our best striker go. We let him go just before the season started with no time to replace him. You know, he needs tools to do his job and play his way, and Levy's going to have to come up with the money, you know, if we want to get anywhere this season. So, but yeah, disappointing tonight. But I knew it, you know. My mate Jeff Dean calls me a witch because we always talk, me and Jeff, during the games. And I said to him, at half time, they started coming back into it. As soon as they scored, I said, I'll bet you any money you like. I said, they win 2-1. I said, like, they'll probably have 2 shots on target the whole bleeding game. And I just knew in my head that it was. I closed down my betting account a couple of years ago because I got a bit addicted to the fruit machines one season on there, so I got rid of that. But like, I'd have had a bet on Ward-Prowse getting the bleeding winner, and I just knew it was coming. I could see it was coming. We just didn't look like score. Apart from the goal we did score, which was a brilliant goal, we just never looked like scoring tonight. There was too many players off the pace, I think.
Kimberly, let's start the show with you. I just want to start with a tweet that I've just read here from Opta Joe. It says, Tottenham are the first side in Premier League history to fail to win 5 consecutive games despite going 1-0 up in each match and lose 3 consecutive home games despite going 1-0 up in each match. And then, of course, they've written that word that I absolutely hate, Spursy. What did you make of the overall performance today? Because I just felt that West Ham were really poor in the first half. They come out like a different side in that second half.
Yeah, no credit to West Ham. I thought they were really good second half. I mean, they just looked like a different side, didn't they? I think Bowen's been playing so well in that position as well. He's so dangerous, He's, he's just, I mean, obviously, they've thrown him in that role and he's just, I think he's great in that role. Like he knows where the goal is. He's a good finisher. Yeah, I mean, I thought they kind of played us at our own game a little bit in the second half, and I just really they kind of deserved the win. We just run out of ideas. We completely run out of ideas. I mean, Richarlison missed that sitter. You know, it was easier to score it. Surely, do you know what I mean? Than miss it. You know, I don't know what to say, but there was a lot of. I mean, I thought he might have brought Jamie Donnelly on. Because we were lacking that kind of Maddison player. I feel that sort of, you know, someone to thread a ball through. We didn't really have that today. Whether he thought the occasion might be a bit much, I don't know. But unless you try these youngsters, but I you know, I've watched Donnelly a lot in the, you know, in the under-21s and that. You know, he's got a little bit of Maddison flair about him. He can sort of, you know, he assists a lot of goals and he can score. You know, I'd have much rather, I think, seen him come up, especially rather than Brian Hill or you know, who's had a few chances. But yeah, I mean, it was just one of them nights. We never looked like we was going to score again, did we? Do you think so?
I think it certainly looks a lot worse than what it is, Kim, because, you know, when I said that stat, 1 point in a possible, you know, last 15, I trust the process. I think Ange Postecoglou is going to take this football club forward. I think it's absolutely crazy for people to be calling, you know, out the manager at this stage of the season, particularly particularly all the injury problems that we've got and what we've been through as a football club. And we've seen in each of the defeat, you know, each defeat that we have played well in spells of the game. But he has said in many press conferences that there's so much more to come from that final third. You know, you mentioned Richarlison's miss. You know, coming off the sub bench, you know, that should have gone in all day long. Johnson, I think there's a lot more to come from him. Kulusevski, he should be assisting. He should be scoring a lot more than he does. And I think there's so much more to come. Darren, let's come to you. What have you made of the last 5 games? Because it does seem a very poor stat, 1 point in a possible last 15. How are you feeling right now?
It's just so frustrating, Chris. I mean, as I said, you know, you go back to sort of West Ham and Wolves, and you know, when we got our first team out, they seemed settled, and when we got after the Chelsea game, where we got the injuries and the suspensions, and we were, if you like, playing a second string team, the whole team changed, and there were comments when Ange first got in, and people were sort of looking at what he's got after Harry Kane left. And there were comments, a lot of fans were saying, you know, when after Maddison came in, you know, we got a great first team, but we haven't got a lot of strength in depth. And, you know, God forbid something happens to all our best players, then we're going to really see where we are and it's going to be a proper test. Well, typical Spurs, the shit hits the fan. You know, our first team gets obliterated, and then you live with a sort of makeshift second string team. And it's so frustrating. There's sort of a lack of continuity, really. I thought that first team was so settled, you know, with Maddison pulling the strings and Sarr. And when Bentancur was back, you know, we looked like a flair team. And then when the injuries and the suspension happened, we're left bum bare again. And this is, you know, as Kim said, this is where maybe we get found out. You know, we need these creative players. We need a Maddison when Maddison isn't there. Who's his replacement? Who can do what he does? Well, we you know, it showed today that no one can do what he does. You know, you got Bentancur and Sarr in the midfield. Well, Sarr wasn't fit today. That's why he didn't start. He just brought him in for a bit of you know, a backup at the end. But, you know, when Bentancur gets injured, who does what Bentancur does? That flair player in midfield. And, you know, Kim used the words, you know, we get found out. And that, it sends shivers down my spine, because the idea that people just, you know how to deal with Spurs, and I won't use the S word because you hate it, Chris, and it's your podcast. But when people, you know, say, it's just Spurs, you know, it's just, you know, like Ferguson used to say, I hate that idea. I absolutely hate idea. We need to have backups in all positions, and we need to know that, you know, when one player like Maddison or Bentancur, you know, our flair players or Romero gets injured, we've got like for like, and at the moment we don't. I agree. Trust the process, and we'll see what happens in the January window. But yeah, it's just so frustrating. It's really frustrating. We should put these games to bed. West Ham were battered in the first half, absolutely battered. Some of the passing again today was absolutely a treat to what we were going through their midfield like a knife through butter. You know, some of the crossfield balls, the intricate passing, but no end product. It's just so frustrating. It's so frustrating. I do trust the process, but what do you do after a night like tonight? You know, how many times can you pick yourself up and go again and go again? You know, the cliches that we all hear, we go again, boys, we go again, you know.
I'll tell you what, the interesting game will be on Sunday here back at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium because, of course, Newcastle...
They lost tonight.
3-0 by Everton at Goodison Park.
Was it 3-0 in the end?
3-0, yeah.
Oh, wow.
As I said earlier, Spurs remain fifth in the Premier League table. Newcastle up next. Becky, let's come to you. I just want to give you a stat as well. 76% possession for Spurs. We must put games to bed like this. When you go 1-0 up, and as I read those horrible stats out, you know, we've gone 1-0 up in the last 5 games and we've come away with 1 point. Andrew's frustrated because he said in the press conferences a number of times that, you know, he expects that final third, a lot more needs to happen in there. What is it just all about injuries, Becky, for you? Or, you know, I know a lot of us are very positive about what's happening right now, but of course, 4 defeats in 5, it's hard to take, isn't it?
Yeah, I think one of the most frustrating things looking at today's game in isolation is that the goals conceded were really poor. And, you know, the positivity of having Romero back, I thought Udogie had a good first half, but looked off the pace second half. That's a shame. I think, like I said before, I think Kulusevski kept cutting inside too much. I think when he took Højbjerg and he took Lo Celso off, I know it was 1-1 then, but it felt like that we'd lost that kind of creative edge. And you know, you're talking there about how strong we were in the first half. A lot of it was coming from Lo Celso. So Lo Celso was putting shots in, or he was kind of playing the ball to Son and to Kulusevski, and there was that kind of intricate play. I think also as well, it just, like I said before about being a bit found out, it was quite laboured, and whether that is because it's, like you said, we've got injuries and there's that kind of tiredness kind of coming in. It was just, I agree with everything that's been said so far. We've started well. We haven't managed to kick on. I was saying to Jack next to me, you know, it's another game we haven't gone 2-0 up at. We keep talking about almost since the Chelsea game, we've talked almost every single match about how it's this if, buts and maybes. You know, if Son goes in at Chelsea that was offside, it's a different game. If that one from Zuma had gone in just before half time, it's a different game. And that's brilliant, but we can't keep using that as excuses now. There's got to be this sort of idea that we've got to kick on and, you know, hopefully Son.
We've lost Becky, yeah. So, Kim, let's come to you. Let's talk about the starting 11 because, of course, Ange Postecoglou made 2 changes today. Romero and Højbjerg coming in for Emerson and Bryan Hill. So the starting 11 was as follows. Vicario in goal, the back 4 of Porro, Romero, Davis, Udogie. In midfield, Lo Celso, Højbjerg and Basuma. And then the front 3 of Johnson, Son and Kulusevski. Subs this evening, Forster, Royale, Dorrington, Skip, Sarr, Donnelly, Bryan Hill, Richarlison and Vilés. Was there any surprises for you, or did you expect Ange to make those 2 changes?
Yeah, I expected him to make. I don't think Bryan Hill had much of an impact at the weekend. I expected the 2 changes. I think when Højbjerg came on, he played really well, like at the weekend. So yeah, I did expect the changes. I expect sort of Davis to sort of partner Romero. Yeah, it wasn't going to be Emerson Royal, was it? So yeah, it was the team. To be honest, when I looked at the team, you know, I thought, you know, I quite fancied it tonight. I really did, you know, and the way we sort of got on the front foot, you know, in the first half, and we got the early goal. Like, I don't know, it was just about 5 or 10 minutes after that goal. I don't know, we sort of took our foot off the pedal. I don't know what happened. But the second half, I think, is one of the shoddiest I've seen us play all season, if I'm honest. I mean, at least the other games we've lost. I mean, Villa, like, you know, I think we played a lot better than that second half tonight. it was just one of them. I think we could have stayed there till Christmas and would have blasted everything over the bar. I don't think Son was particularly on his game tonight. Kulu didn't have his best game. It was just, still think we're lacking something. I thought we've definitely got to bring a goal scorer in. We really do need, if we're gonna even sort of challenge for Champions League and try and have a good FA Cup run, we really do need. I know we need a centre back, another central creative midfielder. With the injuries we've got. I mean, I don't know if you saw Maddison's interview before, and it seems like his recovery's taken a bit longer than we hoped, So whether he's going to be back like end of Jan, it might even be Feb. So, but what we can't do is like leave it till the end of January, 31st, and then bring the players in. We've got to bring them in early because we've got a lot of games in January. But I honestly do. I mean, when I've spoken to you before, Chris, with past managers, I remember sitting on here once with you and like Conte, and you was all buoyant, and so was the other two guests. And like, he was all going, yeah, do you think this is going to be the one we're going to win a trophy with? And I remember in the end agreeing with you because I didn't want to be like the Wicked Witch of the West. Do you know what I mean? And everyone thinking what a miserable cow I was. But I never believed we was going to win anything under Conte, as I did Mourinho. I do genuinely believe in Big Ange, and I think if he gets back, I would really look forward to next season, and to see what he can do then with the right players. I definitely think there's no way I'm going to ill judge this manager because he's got a view. I like his view. It's far better than the crap we've had to put up with the last few years, where we've lost the last 4 out of the last 5 or not. You know what I mean? So I just, I've got all the confidence in the world in Big Ange if he's given the right tools for the job.
Darren, does this result and performance make it even worse, the fact that we played so well in that second half of the Etihad against City on Sunday?
Oh, it's not good, is it? I mean, it's not good. And again, that what we're doing is we're forming a pattern. We're forming a pattern. You said this is the 5th game in succession that we've gone 1-0 up and then not won. So, you don't want, like I said before, sorry to repeat myself, you don't want teams to start looking and seeing this and saying, that it's a question of attitude, and that if you do go at Spurs, their heads do drop, So plus the fact that we haven't got our playmaker until January, February. I was surprised to see Sarr tonight, actually, because I got the Spurs alert just before kickoff saying that he wasn't going to be ready, and then lo and behold, he comes on for 10 minutes. So I was surprised to see him. But in answer to your question, yeah, it is worrying. I just don't, whenever the patterns start to emerge, I just worry that the other teams are going to get a measure on us. And if it is worrying. It is worrying. It is worrying. I don't know where the answer lies. You see, because if Bentancur's out and Maddison's out, and Van der Ven's out, all these players that are special players, where are their substitutes? Where's the backups? Do we have to wait till January? And then, if we do get 1 or 2 signings in January, then they have to bed in. That takes time.
The thing is, Darren, we've gone through a major rebuild and are going through a major rebuild. I think some Spurs fans need to have a little bit more realism about what.
No, absolutely. No. Listen, no. I'm not. Listen, I'm not.
I know you're not. I'm just reading some of the comments in the comments section, and I'm seeing Ange out, for instance. It's ridiculous.
Oh, that's. I mean, I've to be honest, I've got my notes up on the right hand screen, so actually, I better get rid of it just in case someone calls me a. No, listen, I'm not a Debbie Downer. I really not. I'm like you. I try to see the positives in anything, and and when we lose, I always got this mindset. I've said to you in the past on here, Chris, that if there's a glimmer of hope to be taken, I latch onto that, and I think, well, yes, we've lost, but we can learn from that, and we can find out where we've lost. Even today, hopefully. I know this is like the 5th game in a row that this has happened, but hopefully I like the idea that Ange takes them in tomorrow, tears a strip out of them and says, this attitude has got to stop. You cannot hang your heads in shame and go inwards and recoil and feel sorry for yourselves, especially at home, especially playing a London rival. You need to fucking grab the bull by the horns and absolutely go at them. You cannot just, rest on your laurels. You need to get that second goal. And I always look on the positive and think, come on, what can we do to learn from a thing like this? But as I said, if patterns keep on emerging, it is worrying.
Becky, let's come to you. Let's first have a look at the match stats. Overall in the game, Spurs had 75% of the ball to West Ham's 25. Shots, Spurs had a staggering 23 to West Ham's 11. Shots on target, Spurs 7, West Ham 5. Corners, Spurs had 8 to West Ham's 4. Fouls, Spurs 11, West Ham 12. Becky, let's start with Tottenham's opening goal, because, of course, we went 1-0 up after 11 minutes. A great corner from Pedro Porro. And, Romero come back into the team this evening. And what a header from him. What a finish.
Yeah, apologies about the keeps cutting out. I don't know what happens. I keep getting taken off. It was like straight. It was just a fantastic ball, wasn't it? Straight onto his head, straight into the top corner. And like I said, I just thought we would really kick on from that. The celebration from Romero, people maybe in the ground didn't notice it, but Romero chest pumped Porro and literally took him out and knocked him down. He was so pleased. But yeah, like I said, I really thought we had West Ham for the taking. They were really on the back foot, and we were kind of battering them. And it was just, I think a stat came up to say that in the first half we had 14 shots to their 4, and then we had 4 shots in the second half, and that shows how dominant we were in the first half. But yeah, I agree with what everyone was saying after that. I just think we'd still be playing, on Saturday, and we wouldn't have scored. It just got very lackluster, and they kind of ran out of options. And I think although Ange is making substitutions to try and improve things, because of the lack of strength in depth, the creativity wasn't really there. And like I said, I think once the Celso had gone off, we really struggled with anything. If Son was pushed out left on wide, Johnson wasn't necessarily getting the ball in, neither was Kulusevski. But going back to what you said about the goal, yeah, it's a great goal. It was a great start. We just didn't really build on it.
Kim, let's come to you. In the 15th minute, Johnson had a shot blocked. In the 17th minute, Heung-min Son shot on goal. Kulusevski was in a good position. In the 21st minute, Lo Celso had a shot over the bar. It seemed that in that first half in particular, that Johnson and Kulusevski had a lot of space down the wings, but just didn't use that space to, of course, create the second goal. I want to ask you about Brennan Johnson. What have you made of Brennan Johnson in the Spurs shirt so far, particularly this evening? And also, if I could add another question, when you talk about signing a striker, do you think that Ange Postecoglou will end up signing a striker and putting Heung-min Son back out to the left-hand side?
Firstly, just excuse me for when I've been jumping up and down. Believe it or not, that horrid cat of mine's brought a mouse in and is chasing it round under my feet and in the front room. And I've been trying to catch it in between while you've been talking. I'm not being rude.
Mine does that.
He's running. He's chasing it round in the front room now.
We've got yours bringing a mouse in. We've got Darren's jumping up on the screen, and we've got Becky's internet going all over the place. So just another evening at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium.
Under the table, he's chasing it round by me feet. Poor little thing. Anyway, the question about Son, yes, I reckon he will bring a striker in and put Son back out wide. I think so. I mean, I think Son's done a great job in that position, but I still think, I mean, listen, we're not going to replace Harry, but we do need someone. As much as I wanted it to work for Richarlison, I just don't think it is now. I was really hoping. I like him as a person. He normally puts in a shift for the side, but I just don't think he's going to bang in the goals. I mean, I really hoped last season that this season he would, but I don't know. I don't know. What do you think? But what was the other question, Chris?
Do you think that Son will end up going back out to the left?
Yeah, I've answered that one. I do.
And your thoughts on Brennan Johnson?
Yeah. Oh, Brennan Johnson. I like him. I think he brings a lot to the team. I'm not sure. I think he needs to improve on his shooting ability, but he's not. He seems to be a little bit off target and weak shots, but I do think he brings a lot to the side. He's a young player. Yeah, I like him. He's assisting, and that is, if he could sort of, add a few goals to his, when he assists and that. Yeah, I think he's a good buy. I like him.
Darren, let's come to you in the 35th minute. Johnson to Lo Celso, straight at the goalkeeper. 37 minutes gone. Good move. Basuma to Johnson. Johnson then shot. Goalkeeper saved. In the 40th minute, Basuma shot over the bar. So a number of chances for Spurs here in the first half. And then took a shot. Son was waiting in the middle. I've spoken on this podcast in recent weeks about Heung-min Son being in the middle, and so many fans in the comments section over the last few weeks have said that Son has been poor in games. In my opinion, I think that Son needs a lot more service. In my opinion, I think that Kulusevski and Johnson really do need to help out Son in the middle, and some of the decision-making has been poor, or it could be a lot better. Do you agree with that? And also I want to ask you the same question I asked Kim about, do you think that Sonny will end up going out to the left if and when Spurs sign a striker?
I hope so. Son has always been his best when he's on the left and he's cutting in. I mean, we've seen the most unbelievable goals, you know, when he's actually running at defenders and they're shit scared. They don't know how to handle him. And he'll either play a ball to Harry Kane, may he rest in peace, or take a shot on and, you know, bend it into the top corner. So, and I think today was an example, and the Villa game, that with a number 9, we'd have been home and dry. We just need a fox in the box. You know, we need someone to give us the service. We need a fox in the box. And Son isn't that player. I don't think he does well just sort of sitting in that position. His best thing is coming in, cutting in. I'm just reading this, but we haven't taken advantage. I thought we'll.
Well, let me read it, Darren. Craig has very kindly given us a quote from Ange Postecoglou.
Oh, hey, Craig.
It's another game where we've dominated a game of football, but we haven't taken advantage. I thought we were poor in both areas. Now finishing and also from both goals we conceded were terrible. I completely agree.
Yeah.
Darren, let's stay with you, because just before half-time, of course, Kulusevski with a great run to Lo Celso. Lo Celso put the ball in the box, and then, of course, it was blocked by Zouma, who, you know, went onto the post in the end. A very, very unlucky move from Tottenham, because, of course, we could have gone in 2-0 up. How are you feeling at half-time at 1-0?
Say that again, sorry.
How are you feeling at half-time at just 1-0 with so much possession?
Well, yeah, frustrating. You know, I mean, that Basuma run, he did that cheeky little back heel, and then Decky followed the curvature of, you know, went all the way round. You know, we're playing great football, but no end product, and I think that just demonstrates where we're lacking. You know, you can't batter a team for 45 minutes and score 1 goal. I mean, we properly they couldn't. And I've got to say, it wasn't just the passing; it was the winning the ball back, you know, all the time, 2 players on a West Ham player. It was really, really intense. You know, they couldn't fart. You know, you couldn't put a Rizzler paper between their players. We were just on them. You know, the intensity was unbelievable. But again, you know, it's not good enough if you're not going to get that second goal. You're not going to put distance. You know, because if we're 1-0 ahead, all it takes is them to equalise and the heads drop. You know, so, I mean, I was pleased, and I tweeted, you know, just more of the same, guys, more of the same. But what happens? They go in at half-time. Moyes tears them a new arsehole, you know, tells them, you've got to do what Spurs are doing to you, play with intensity, play with aggression, be quicker. And they did to us what we did to them. So absolutely, very, very frustrating. And again, I'm just repeating myself, but it shows where we're lacking. With a proper striker, we get that second goal. You know, with a partnership like Kane and Son, we get that second goal. And I know someone said if on the chat, but we have to talk about ifs, because, you know, if we had a partnership like Kane and Son, we put West Ham to bed in the first half. We put Aston Villa to bed in the first half. You know, so I think we are entitled to say if. Someone's written someone's written and doggy out. I mean, come on, what planet are these people on?
Darren, do you think that we've got to 15 games in the season for Spurs fans now to be saying we miss Harry Kane? Because we haven't heard it before.
Well, I think it's the frustration showing through. You know, when we're playing well and we're scoring goals and we're beating teams, you know, people weren't saying that when we were top of the league, you know, a couple of months back. But, you know, we have a blip, we have an injury crisis, And it is an injury crisis. All teams go through it. There's not a season where people don't, have good players out. But what you need is strength in depth. And at the moment, we haven't got it. It is, obviously, it's premature. We just ignore that chat because that's just ridiculous.
Becky, I think it's fair to say that one real positive this evening is Pedro Porro's performance. And I think, in these games that we have lost recently, Pedro Porro has been a constant performer for Tottenham. I think he's come a long way under Ange Postecoglou, particularly from last season when he made his debut at Leicester away. Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. I think he's got such an engine, hasn't he? And like you were saying before about decision making from Kulusevski and Johnson, and I agree with everything that's kind of just been said there. I think the decision making from both of those tonight was a little bit iffy, which is that kind of found out kind of idea. But Porro just the crosses that he puts in, the engine that he's got, the drive that he's got, the tracking back that he's doing, and once the Celso went off, pretty much everything came from Porro. The crosses that he was making. I was sitting here at home with Jack going, just get the ball in the box. Just get the ball in the box. It goes back to the Liverpool game when they scored the own goal. It's because Porro hit it in the box and it went in. And we were just sort of almost overpassing at the end. And when, Porro was prepared to cross it in and get a cross in. And yeah, he is. He's I think also Vicario, I think, is still having, he's playing so well, he's not deserving to have these decisions and these results go against him because, I know the second goal was a bit chaotic, but, he made some really decent saves again today. And again, it's just, I think it's maybe a run of games. And unfortunately, I thought today was maybe the first one of the kind of more on paper winnable games that we were starting to kind of come out of that side. And that's where it's frustrating. So what you were saying before about after City, and, that kind of drive and that hunger and that determination to keep going at City was, I think, saw that people with a makeshift defence, we can do that against City. We've got Romero back tonight. It's going to kick on. And it didn't quite work out, which I think is why when we started the show, we were all a bit flat because it's like we had these kind of expectations that, they were going to keep going to the final whistle. Yes. But I think, like we said, it's just all a bit obvious tonight, I think. And I can read in the comments there, you say Andrew saying it's not down to tiredness, but it was almost like the substitutions didn't help either. But going back to Porro, he's just a machine. He just continues to keep going and striving. And yeah, he was certainly one of our best players today.
Well, Heung-min Son in an interview after the game said losing the game is unacceptable. We were soft. And Ange Postecoglou, another comment from him, people say we're playing nice stuff. That's not what I'm about. I want to win. Kim, let's come to you. Let's talk about West Ham's equaliser in the 52nd minute. Shot deflected into the path of Bowen. They got a bit of luck for the goal. What did you make of it?
Yeah, they did get a bit of luck. I think the way we play the ball out all the time, I love it. And when it works really well. But I think that with that style of play where you're really playing out and passing in your own penalty area and that, there's always going to be a cock up somewhere along the line. Do you know what I mean? A missed pass, something else. There's always going to be a chance of of what happened tonight, really. But I think they took it well. They just came out like a different team. I mean, and as you said, I think he obviously said play them at their own game, and they did. And let's just hope not everybody else comes and does that because. But yeah, I mean that you've got to give credit where it's due. I thought West Ham were really good in the second half, and I'm not saying they deserve the win. Obviously, we had more possession, but it's about goals, and they took their goals really well. It was the two players that have been scoring for them quite a lot, and what more can you say? And I think after they got the goal, we didn't really trouble them. I know, we had possession and that, but as I said to you, we never really looked. I thought after Romero's goal, even the first half, when we just didn't look like scoring tonight. It was one of them games for me where I just thought we're not going to score. You just get a feeling as a fan, don't you, when you're watching something? And there are games like that. We've all sat there through them. And I just had that feeling tonight. I just thought I was really disappointed when we went in 1-0 at half time because I think I could see what was coming.
Darren, in the 67th minute, Ange made a couple of subs. Skip and Richarlison coming on for Lo Celso and Højbjerg. 3 minutes later, Pedro Porro put in a wonderful ball. And I've mentioned that I thought Pedro Porro was great tonight. Richarlison header, wide by inches. Where I was sat, most people were celebrating, thinking it had hit the back of the net. Got to do better there, hasn't he? Surely.
Yeah, I mean, it was literally inches wide. But I mean, what do you do? I mean, do you give the guy time? Do you say that he's had his own personal issues and he still needs to bed in? I don't know. He was great for Everton. Is he an Ange player? Is he? Does Postecoglou want to carry on and have faith in him? I don't know. He's missed quite a lot of sitters now, isn't he? He really has. It seems to be a recurring thing. Oh, if Richarlison scores that, oh, if Richarlison's header that goes in. But I agree that Porro was pretty much on fire, whipping those balls in tonight. It was, I think, probably the best performance I've seen out of him. Thought he was fantastic. I don't know. I mean,
the one thing we said about the Richarlison one is that my Jack said to me, he goes, Kane's on the end of that, he goes in. And you don't want to always compare him to Kane, but Kane was so good with his head. They said over commentary that Richarlison hasn't scored with his foot yet for Spurs, but that ball comes in and Kane's on his head on it, it's 1-0, or he scores. And the problem is inevitably it's, Richarlison hasn't scored. And for all of his desire and his fight, and seeing him at the end of the City game when he gets the ball and oofs it into the away end and goes absolutely crazy, for all of that, it's about what he delivers for Spurs. And at the moment, it's not quite enough. And I said this after the Wolves game, the players we need to bring on to change a game, I'm not sure he's the right one. If he's not getting the service, he's not going to be going and getting the goals.
I mean, fundamentally, the guy's a striker, and strikers score goals. And he ain't scoring goals. I mean, that's the harsh reality. That's not me being an arsehole. That's the harsh reality of it, isn't it?
Yeah. It's mad when you think, really, isn't it? All the time we had Harry, we couldn't create any chances. Now we're creating chances and we've got no one to put them in the net. Do you know what I mean? It's sod's law, really, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Becky, let's come to you. In the 73rd minute, Tottenham had a good chance. Johnson shooting at the goalkeeper, Fabianski saving. A minute later, West Ham took the lead through Ward-Prowse. Udogie's back pass, Vicario dived at the feet of Bowen. Ward-Prowse hit the post, and then, of course, he tapped home. What did you make of West Ham's second goal?
Yeah, so like I said before, I just think that, the back pass from Udogie was quite soft. I think, like I said, whether he was tiring towards the end or whether he's still shaking off an injury, he's 4 bookings as well. He didn't want to kind of lunge in and make another booking and be suspended or I don't know. It's all of that sort of, but yeah, it was a very soft back pass. And then, yes, like I said, for the first goal, it's just not great. And I thought Vicario did quite well. They were saying in commentary he should have caught it and picked it up and taken the indirect free kick, but I think he tries to make the save, doesn't foul the player, and then it just kind of unravels from there, really. But it's like we've said here, they didn't have a lot of chances, but they took them, and it's just really annoying. And unfortunately, recently we've got used to seeing it, and it's really a shame. Like I said before, we got Romero back. I thought Davis did quite well in the first half. Darren was saying about how we were getting interceptions back and we were getting the ball back and doing turnovers, and all of that was really good in the first half, and it just wasn't really there, and the goal was just very much like the Chelsea games. It's a Chelsea game. The goals were just poor from our point of view.
Kim, let's come to you.
Van de Ven. I mean, he's a wonderful player. When they were together, the two of them, we weren't sort of allowing chances like this. He's a great player. The way he came in. I mean, him, Maddison. Like, you couldn't really wish for, not that you want anyone to get injured, but we lost 2 of our best players, and we're going to struggle with that until they come back, I think.
Another quote here from Heung-min Son: at 1-0 up, you have to be ruthless with your chances, but we didn't do that and we're very disappointed. In the 77th minute, Johnson had another shot, this time wide. 83rd minute, Tottenham made another couple of subs. Sarr on, Bryan Hill on, Basuma off, Johnson off. In the 87th minute, Sarr had a shot over the bar. In the 88th minute, we made our 5th sub of the game. Son off, Viles on. I want to end the podcast by asking you all 2 questions. Kim, let's start with you. What do Spurs need to do as an absolute minimum in the January transfer window? And how do you see the Newcastle game coming up on Sunday and score prediction?
Firstly, the January transfer window. We've got to buy a goal scorer. We desperately need a goal scorer. We need centre half. We need another centre half. And possibly, depending on who's available, what's available. I mean, Bentancur's going to be out until February at least. But the sounds of it, Maddison is. I think we need to bring in another creative midfielder. I think we need the 3 players. Whether we can sort of offload any to help with the cost of that, I don't know. But I definitely think we need those 3. We've got to. I mean, it all depends, how sort of ambitious Daniel is this season. But if we want to, I honestly think if we brought in the right players in January, we've still got a great chance of getting Champions League football and then having a good FA Cup run. This hasn't dampened me too much. I did expect better tonight, but it hasn't dampened me too much because I do believe in the manager for once, and it's unusual for me, as you know, Chris, to say that. I never believed in the last couple of 3, but I do believe in Ange, and I think if he's back properly, given the right tools, I still think we've got a great chance. It's such an up and down season with people. What was City falling away? I think we've got a great chance. Newcastle losing tonight. I still think bringing in them right players early January, not on the 31st, early January, we've still got a great chance of Champions League football next season. And really, you'd have taken that all day long after the last few seasons, playing good football and Champions League football and maybe a good FA Cup run. You'd have rubbed your hands together at the start of the season for that, had we not gone on that run that nobody really expected in the first place, And Sunday, the game on Sunday, what have we got to do on Sunday? I mean, I think I'd throw one of the youngsters in. I keep saying it, and I keep obviously. You do, Chris. You watch the under 18s, the under 21s a lot, so you're very aware of. It's only really since I've had Spurs play that I've been watching all the games. But I don't know. I don't know whether I'd start with Donnelly, but I would have brought him on tonight. Because he can, as you well know, Chris, he can create and he can score. I'd probably start with him. I think it would lift the crowd. I mean, if they have to bring him off, after 60, 70 minutes, but I would. He's one of your own. That'll lift the crowd. And I just think, unless you give these youngsters a chance, you don't know if they're ready. We all know he's a star in the making. But it's who's going to finish his chances. But listen, as I said, Sonny and I think Porro was our best player tonight. Sonny and Kulu both really had off games for them. Let's just hope sort of, they're back with the chances. I'm still quite positive about the weekend's game. You've got to be, haven't you,
Kim, what's your score prediction?
2-1. 2-1 Spurs.
Darren, same questions to you. What do the Spurs need to do in the transfer window? How do you see Sunday's game going, and score prediction?
Yeah, we definitely need a striker. I think we've proved that now. We've seen enough to know that we need someone who's going to finish off, and that we're lacking in that department. Son is out of position at the moment. He needs to be back where he belongs, on the left, cutting in, as I've said. We need a decent centre half as well. We can't have these replacements. Yeah. As for Sunday, I don't know. Newcastle are going to be we're obviously going to be licking their wounds, but we haven't got a full strength team. Newcastle are going to be sore after tonight. That's not like them. When they played in Europe, who were they against Paris Saint-Germain? They played bloody well. And I really hope that they don't take their well, they will do. They're going to take their frustration out on what happened tonight on us on Sunday. I'm not as optimistic as Kimberly, I'm afraid. I think if we can get a point, go up there and get a point, I'll be very, very happy. I'll be happy with that. I think they'll be licking their wounds after tonight. And I don't want us to be on the end of it, to be honest, Chris.
Darren, we're not going up there. We're staying here. We're staying at home.
Sorry.
It's like having Ricky Norwood back with us.
Sorry. Yeah, I know. Yeah, I'll see you in Watford. Sorry, my apologies. I still think it. Yeah, they'll be licking their wounds after tonight. And if we had a full strength team, I would say absolutely we could tear them a new arsehole. But I think if we can grab a point off them, I'll be happy with that. I just think they're playing so well. I think tonight was a blip for them, but their form is incredible.
And Trippier's bound to have a blinder and score a goal. You know that, don't you, Darren?
Oh, he is. Of course he is. Yeah, yeah.
You can tell you're friends with Anthony Costa, Kimberly.
I always liked Trippier. I was a big Trippier fan. A lot of people.
Oh, it's fantastic.
He's made two mistakes tonight, though. The first two goals were errors by him. Yeah.
Well, let's
very uncharacteristic.
I hope he continues in that vein on Sunday. You could guarantee he has the game of his life. You just know it.
Becky, finally, your score prediction, how you think we'll get on Sunday, and what the Spurs need to do in the transfer window?
The only good thing about tonight's defeat is that the games have come thick and fast, and we get Sunday comes around almost without we've all even realised. So that is the only good thing about it, and it's a 2:00 kickoff as well. I think it's a tricky one, because if we think back to previous Newcastles, those of us that were there at the away game last year, when we don't really want to remember it, and then the season before we beat them 5-1, 6-1 at home. So it's one of those fixtures that it's quite tricky to tell how it will go. They've also got a lot of injuries, particularly in defence as well. And like I said, I flipped over at half-time to watch that game, and that's when Everton were 2-0 up. And they moved the ball really quickly and scored some really nice goals. And then we can do that exact same thing and we can score. But it's like tonight, if we don't do that, then Newcastle will build on the game in the second half and they will come at us and they will probably win. And I'm the same. I don't know. If I was asked that question for the next 3 days, I think I will come up with a different answer. I think it will whether Sarr starts, whether Son starts, if Son hasn't picked up a knock, does Johnson start? It's all a bit. But I think possibly Tool. I'd love us to win, but I think it will be a draw and we might even lose it. In terms of the January transfer window, I think we need a backup centre back. Whether I used to think it was just we needed a left-footed centre back, or maybe we need a right-footed one as well. We maybe need somebody in midfield, creative midfielder. I agree with that. Do we need a striker as well? Valise comes on, bless him, and he just sort of huffs and puffs. Nobody really gives him any service. I can't remember him ever having a shot, and all the times he's come on a sub. So it's a tricky one. Like you said there, is Højbjerg on his way out? I noticed he didn't clap the supporters off tonight, which usually when we're kind of making changes for a purpose, you think he would do. So is he going? Almost every day we hear whether Lo Celso is happy now or he's not happy still and he wants to move on. What happens with him? Does that change things? Have the injuries meant that Lo Celso is going to stay? Obviously 2 goals in 2 games before today. Does that mean he's going to stay? Is Richarlison moving on? Do we do anything with Richarlison? You really don't know, but I agree with what you said. It has to happen early. I think all of the rumours that we're hearing is that it is going to happen early because they need to get time to get used to Andrew's way. We've still got all these injuries. So I think, in terms of names, in terms of Kulusevski and Bentancur, I didn't really know of them when they came, and they came in January. So we can get decent people in January. I just want it to be done quickly. And, I think, like I said before, I think the next few fixtures were reasonably winnable, but now maybe aside from Newcastle, but now I'm not just sure that's the case. And we were along for the ride this year. And kept saying, watch me in the second season, not the first season. We've got to keep remembering that. We're enjoying watching the football. I would say tonight was the first night it was quite audible, the boos at the end of the game. I've not heard that this season, and we heard that a lot last year, which is a shame. Maybe that's just a kind of gut-wrenching reaction, but I think Ange's doing the right things. We've just got to be more clinical. We have to be more clinical. Our goal difference is really dwindling now, and we haven't blown anybody away yet this season. Well, Burnley maybe was the only one. And that we've got the firepower, and with that slick play, when we play fast and we play, it just looks so great to watch, which is why the stadium has been full right to the end of the final whistle in every match, because you know something's coming. It's just going back to what we said at the beginning. It's just a bit flat. It's just such a shame that we didn't kick on. And again, it's the 3rd game, 4th game, 5th game. This has kind of happened, and it's becoming far too current. And something's got to change. And I don't really know what the answer to that is.
I knew when they kept putting all them stats up, when we were 10 games in and they kept putting them stats up. Every team, Sky kept putting up, every team that's like won their first 10 goals, had so many points in the first 10 games, 60% of them have gone on to win the league, and the rest, I thought, don't curse us. Do you know what I mean? That's exactly what happened.
Yeah, yep. You can get too carried away. Heung-min Son another quote from him. I know it's very sad for the fans and disappointing, but as a group, we want to bounce back as soon as possible. So let's hope that we can bounce back with a win on Sunday at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium against Newcastle United. As I said, we're fifth in the Premier League. Becky, thanks so much for joining us this evening. Where can people find you and what you're up to at the moment?
You can find me on the Choose Room on Monday nights. Thanks for having me on. Like I said, apologies for the dropouts at the beginning. Yeah, and I'll be there on Sunday. I'm at all the games now until mid-January. I probably won't go to Burnley because of the Friday night, unfortunately, but I'll be at all the games. If you see me and Jack in the South Stand, give me a wave, and thanks for having me on.
Well, the stadium is now closed and I'm officially being booted out. So, Kimberly and Darren, please keep this very brief. Kim, what books have you got coming out at the moment?
I've got a book called The Brothers, which is a follow-up to The Family Man, comes out on March the 14th. And at this precise moment, I'm going to go catching mice just to add to my wonderful evening, Chris.
Well, Kim, thanks so much for joining us and look forward to having you back on very soon. And Darren, every single time I'm in my car at the moment, I seem to be hearing your voice selling products, gift vouchers, Christmas things, all sorts.
Yeah, I'm on Talk Sport, Absolute. History, Absolute 80s advertising, Hankook tires. Hankook not win. So that's me. Apologies for that. Yeah, I'm on Twitter. I'm on TikTok. I do lots of voiceovers on TikTok and impressions and Instagram, so they can find me on that. I'll keep it brief. I first started getting the bug for showbiz when... No, I'm joking.
Darren, thank you so much. Becky, thank you. Kimberly, thank you. And
Good night,
hopefully get back to winning ways on Sunday. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening, everyone. And until the next one, come on, you Spurs.
See you.
Okay.